This is Acts chapter 19 and verse 15. It says, "And the evil spirit answered and said, Yahawashi I know, Paul I know, but who are ye?" I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham Akakodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone. And salutations to you brothers who's pushing this truth in the four corners, the highways and byways. Again, all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham Akakodash. Shalom. This video is basically inspired by, an occurrence that took place on my last work, on the last work, right? On live, right? The channel is GMS Guyana 02, and basically what happened, coming down to the last hour of the work, there was a guy that stepped up to us, basically trying to use semantics. He came up as if he was asking questions, but as we were going in and answer the question, he showed this and all to the word. But guess what? The brother Izar, who's also of the GMS New York camp, the main camp, he was there. He was there as well, and the brother basically, showed him some patience, because at times when we are preaching, hey, the scripture said try every spirit, and you'll find a time when we preaching, most of the time the person that comes up to hear, they don't appreciate the speaker. But when another brother speak, you would get at times that they would give more ear. It could be maybe of how eloquent the person, or the brother put the word over, or basically, hey, the person could just have a damn demon on them against a brother, man. All right? Because, hey, at the end of the day, these demons, me intelligent. And what they will try to do is offend your person, making you take your mind off of the work of the Most High and cause you to take things meaning personal, make it about you, but hey, at the end of the day, Yahweh Bashim shall be the glory. So yeah, just going in on what happened there, man. So coming to the last hour, you understand, we had this guy that came up with a demon, an evil spirit, all right? And he tried to disrupt, what we had going on. He tried to disrupt the work. And, with careful listening, I got to realize that this man came in the spirit of Malachi Zedyark, and he selected one of the brothers that was standing with us, and this is important, brothers. I also want to touch on this point. It's imperative that, hey, we keep our spirit strengthened. The scripture says in Hebrews, cast aside, weak hands and feeble knees, lest it be torn out of the way. All right? Because when we go on the highways and byways, you got to be ready for war. You got to be ready for the worst. Protect a brother next to you, stand next to you, your mindset got to be clear. The scripture talk about if you eat this bread unworthily, or if you eat thereof unworthily, meaning, hey, you don't want to come to the works. You don't even want to be a part out there, but you still pushing yourself to be among brothers and you're putting your all in. Hey, there's also of you eating unworthily, and, evil spirit, when they come up there, hey, they could recognize your negative energy and they could pounce on you. All right? So nevertheless, the man was on that brother. You know, he was calling him out. He was telling him, hey, I come for you. And Malachi said, yeah, if you guys, yeah, for you brothers that know, just look up the 11 tablets, the 11 commandments, or something like that of Malachi Zedyar. Basically, look up Malachi Zedyar and his teaching. You know, he got this some images. The guy had some images in his hand with some angels. All right, and he was talking his bullshit. But where he crossed the line, where this demon crossed the line, he started to push the image into the face of the prophets, man. Why men are preaching? Hey, and we tell him don't do that. He keep crossing the border. We tell him to don't do that. Right? And at that point, I moved from being speaker, you know, basically was with, you know, I took the position of the camera, you know, and he came to the camera and pushed it. I say, yo, you know, don't put that in front of the camera. You know, and he said, what you gonna do? And I say, hey, I said, please put it and you're gonna find out. All right, because hey, he basically irritated the brotherhood, man. You know, he basically irritated us, but hey, we were still at peace with him. You know? But anyway, after he got that warning, you know, he stopped for a few and then went back again and lift up one of our signs, you know, and put the Malachi Zedyar images under our posters, you know. And right then we began to take it and tear it up, you know, throw it in his, not in his face, but throw it on the ground to show him that, hey, this image is nothing to us. All right. So basically, this man, he said he come in the name of his messenger Malachi Zedyar to receive a brother. He was sent for a brother. No, we took that serious, you know, and hey, you know, council was also with that brother to check that, check his spiritual, you know, mindset and stuff like that, you know, basically to see if hey, he's on cue, you know, and again, you know, it's very important, brothers, that you know you don't eat unworthily. You know, you check yourself daily. You understand? You come amongst brothers and you're struggling with something and you're not saying anything. You know? You put yourself in danger. Because, hey, our warfare is not against flesh and blood. You know? But in high places. You know? On the spiritual side. You know, you can't be the carnal coming into this thing. You know, bluffing your way. You know? Nevertheless, you know, back to the story. So, as we were going in and so on, and this man, he's just speaking over us and trying to disrupt us, you know, there and then Yahweh Power sent a vagrant man, and this vagrant basically, hey, this vagrant basically sent, this vagrant was basically, you know, he came with a familiar spirit too, you know, I would say, you know, the left side. All right, but hey, we could be wrong. It could be in the, you know, the most I just you put a spirit on this man to basically come and defend us. So what happened? This vagrant came, walked up to the guy, and said, "Hey, leave these men alone, leave these brothers alone, and stop troubling them." You know, said, "Leave these brothers alone and stop troubling them." All right, and as the guy who came with the Malachi Zedyar poster, he will continue with his rioting. You know, the guy that was a vagrant went to his waist and he was about to pull a weapon out to stab the guy that came to disrupt us. You understand? Because he was all up in brother's face and so on, you know. And at that point, You know, we basically commanded him, hey, do what you're sent for. You know. But hey, it's by the will of Yahawashi I. The guy didn't stab him. The guy just hold him, threaten him. You know. Hey, it went on for a little while. Alright? But those demons was out there. Alright? So just wanted to make reference to this Acts chapter 19, you know, 15 and down. For sure, because he came up to us to basically pull a brother, you know, out from out from the congregation, you know. Yeah. So it says, Acts, I can read for 15, Acts 19 verse 15, it says, and the evil spirit answered and said, Yahawashi I know, Paul I know, but who are ye? Alright, because what? In this scripture here, the guy was coming to, you know, basically work miracles. You understand? And he was not a man of the Lord, he was not of the prophet. You know, he was a false prophet, like Malachi Zedyar, you know? And those that come in the spirit of Malachi Zedyar. Alright? It says verse 16. It says, and the man in whom the evil spirit was leaped on them, right? And overcame them, and betrayed and prevailed against them, right? So that they fled out at the house naked and wounded. Alright? So basically these spirits, man, they would get violent, you know, and even for our sake. And this wasn't our first encounter. We had other times whereby it was Jehovah's Witness, and another you know, so-called vagrant came up, all right, with black feather in his hand and said, hey, you know, leave these brothers alone, and I was about to get physical with these people. All right? Hey, we recognize the miracle and the power of Yahawashi I. You know, the scripture says the angel encamped around them that fear him. All right? And it's beautiful. You know, that Yahawashi I, it says spirits are created for vengeance, and then they're so sure they appease the wrath of him that made him when need is. All right? People don't know, you know, anybody, you know, Yahawashi I could use any vessel, you know, basically to protect the men of the Lord, you know, while we're doing our work. But yet again, you know, brothers, it's important that you remember you stay on your game, you know, keep your spiritual eyes single. All right? Anyway, with that, I want to give our praises to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahawashi, Bahasham Makakodash. You know, double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone. And salutations to you brothers who's pushing this truth in the four corners, the highways and byways. You know, to the hopefully elect, say shalom.